gave me all of these resources. And I had no clue that the next 4 of my life, 4 years of my life, that yes was going to produce a breaking that I didn't know if I was going to make it through that.
The D.Fos podcast.
Episode of the D.Fos podcast. We are broadcasting live from Vegas Hype Media Network. Got my man Quan on the boards, the premier podcast studio network. And in the building today, I have a very special guest. We kind of touched base maybe about a year ago about getting him on. Been waiting to get this man on. None other than Pastor Antone Dotson-Parson, also known as Pastor ADP. Welcome to the show.
What's up, man?
How you doing, man?
I'm good. That track was kind of hard. I'm kind of lost in the track. Your opening situation was kind of dope.
Oh,
man.
Thanks, man. Just a little intro music, kind of prep them up, get them going,
Just a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you coming through, man. I know you're very busy, been doing a lot, been moving, especially as a senior pastor. Your hands are always full, always got a full plate, so I appreciate you stopping by. But if I can take it back a little bit, how I first met you is from your auntie's church, New Antioch Christian Fellowship at Aliante. I remember you was I guess you was the worship leader, and it was you and I think Deshaun. And I didn't realize it then at the time when I was in the audience because I was still kind of early in my walk. But I'm like, man, we had a cold duo up there. You and Deshaun. I'm like, I didn't realize it till like after y'all was gone. I'm like, man, we had both those cats in there at the same time. So that's when I just realized how much of a professional you was and how on point and how, on your game you always was. So that's when I first kind of came in contact with you. And then I remember you putting on the Pastors and Leaders Conference. I'm like, man, this guy putting on this stuff already? I thought it was kind of big to be putting on something like that, man. So I just been kind of watching you, man. But you had said something on one of your videos one day, and I don't know if it was a live or just a recorded video, but you mentioned the sacrifice of yes. And I said, ooh, there it is right there. I said that would be a great show title. So that's what kind of, and I think I reached out to you. I said, man, we need to do a sit down just on that right there alone. Yeah. So that's why I kind of formulated all this, and I kind of wanted to title this The Sacrifice of Yes, because I know just from, a lot of your candid conversations and videos that saying yes, it's not always an easy thing.
No, not at all. You want to jump there, like right now?
Yeah, we can go and jump there, man. If you want to speak it, so it's almost like you go to a restaurant and they bring you the food and you eating and all that, and everything's fine until they bring you the bill.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, I didn't know it was gonna cost that.
You just said it. That's a brilliant. That's apropos. For the sacrifice of yes, you just said it. I didn't know. We're having a good time. This is what it is. This is how it is. And then the bill comes and you don't realize what the cost is. All you've seen is the amazing things on the appetizer list, and what are we gonna have for dinner, and what we gonna have for drinks, and some of y'all, if y'all getting alcoholic beverages,
but they lay it out. The whole gamut is laid out.
They lay it out, and you see what it is, and you do not realize the cost until the bill comes. But this is what I'll say. I remember I was in LA 2016, and I was sitting in church, and I've always been able to operate in the prophetic quite easily, just as a gift that I've had.
I understand. Yeah, okay, I understand that.
And I'm sitting in Los Angeles in a church. Was I living in LA at the time? I'm not sure. And they were doing communion, and I was watching the communion come towards me. And it is one of really one of the first and only times that I had an open vision. Okay. And in the open vision, the Lord began to take me into this church, and it had fire on both sides of the altar. And the Lord said, pastoring.
He was speaking that to you.
He was speaking it to me, which is something I never wanted. I watched, in my opinion, my grandfather died from pastoring.
And that was Claude, right?
Claude H. Parson,
Okay.
the senior. I mean,
The senior,
Claude, he's a legend. In this city.
Legendary. We'll get to him too.
But I watched him die. To me, this is just my opinion. From pastoring, I watched my grandmother. I looked at her body as she was dead, and I saw the wounds and how her body was bent, and she had left it all on the table. She had given it to ministry, but I watched ministry.
Both of them.
I watched ministry cripple them and possibly take them out of here sooner than what was expected. That's just my opinion. That may not be, a God thing.
And you was young enough to kind of realize that, like, this is what went on. This is what happened with them. Yeah.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
that was the Stella Parson, right? Stella Mae Parson. Yeah,
Yes.
bless her. Yeah, I know they have a phenomenal legacy in the city of Vegas. So you seen that, and even though seeing that, what did that kind of deter you, or did you feel like the call was so strong that I had to go with it? Like,
no, it didn't deter me. No, it did deter me. I didn't want pastoring. That's not what I was trying to do with my
I heard
life.
so many pastors say that. Like,
No, I didn't. No. You and let me be careful. I don't want to say you a fool, but anybody that would willingly choose this, I would question the real call in their life, because when you realize the sacrifice you're being called to, this isn't something to run
It's not for the lighthearted.
It's
man.
not. It's not for punks, bro. I hate to say it that way.
It really
but
ain't. Yeah,
it's
it really
not.
ain't.
It's really not.
Yeah.
But watching my grandparents, watching Dr. Parson,
Dr. Parson. Yeah, shout out to Pastor Parson.
Shout out to Pastor Parson, one of the most incredible pastors in this city, and we call her the GOAT. But behind the scenes, with things that I know personally and things that you guys have seen, she's paid a price.
She's paid a price, yes,
for what she has,
and still paying,
and
you know
still
what I mean?
paying, and you always will pay a price. But because of this, I didn't want pastoring, and so I'm sitting in LA. Communion is coming towards me, and I go into this vision. I come out of it, and I'm like, okay, God, this is a prophecy for the man next to me. And I immediately start telling God, I'm not about to prophesy in these people's church. I'm not giving a word to anybody.
Okay, nobody.
Because I'm like, why, like, God, what are you doing? And he was like, well, good. This is a word for you. I'm calling you to pastor. And I toiled with it. It seemed like it was 20 minutes. It was actually like 2 minutes. But I toiled with it. I'm like, God, I'm not doing that. That's not what, I'm not doing that with my life. I loved God at the time, but I wanted to be a jazz artist. I wanted to be a jazz singer, and I wanted to drink really good whiskey and smoke really good cigars
do
and
your
go
thing,
have
man.
really good sex.
Yeah.
That's how I wanted. That was my life.
Right.
That's what I had
I
decided.
remember
my
I seen
life
a
would
picture
be.
of your. If you just pause for a minute on the throwback, and it said, what was that? I don't know. You was doing a show at the Las Vegas Library, and you said, I thought I was going to be the Usher Raymond for Christ.
Yeah, I did. I thought I was going to trick the church. I thought I was going to be gospel for a minute, and then I was going to have like this Rihanna situation where I broke out and became like this bad boy. And that's how I play my life, right?
Okay.
Nuts,
Man.
But I told the Lord yes that day. That was 2020. I'm saying 2016, 17. That's. It was a little before that. The problem is that yes was extremely euphoric. God, I'm gonna do your will. God, you're gonna do all of this stuff for me. God, you're gonna grow this big church for me. God, you're gonna anoint me. Like God, you're gonna give me all of these resources. And I had no clue that the next 4 of my life, 4 years of my life, that yes was going to produce a breaking that I didn't know if I was going to make it through that. Because when you tell God yes, you've now given him permission to break up all of the fallow ground in your life.
Yes.
And you're not prepared for him to come through breaking up relationships gone. Your identity and everything you've built and the way you want people to see you gone.
Yeah.
So you go through
100%.
this identity crisis for 4 years.
From who you used to be to who he's transforming you to be now.
Exactly. Exactly.
And yes, it's so vague. It's
That's
not
the
like,
word.
okay, where's the fine print? Lord? I didn't see the fine print.
Yeah. It doesn't require a signature. Let me tell you, I love that you said that, because this is it. Your yes does not require your signature.
It's a yes of the heart.
It's a yes of the heart.
Yeah, okay,
but
okay.
your yes really is a covenant that the Lord made with himself about you.
Yeah.
So it's
spot
not
on.
it's not your signature. It's his signature.
It's okay.
And so you really don't have a
Great
chance
way.
to read the fine print because you're not the one that's signing for it.
That's
and that's
absolute.
hard to deal with.
He's like, yeah, I got you. Don't worry. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
It's done. And not
so
only
true.
is it done right now, but it was done the day you were born,
Right.
if we be honest.
Right.
We go
That's
through
where it
life
started.
just planning and thinking that we're they're planning all of these things. You're going to do what God has called you to do eventually.
But they say man plans and God laughs, huh? Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah. And then speaking on that, if we can go back, how was it? Did you grow up COGIC?
Yes.
So how was that, man? Some of your early experiences is growing up. I know, and shout out to moms, man. Dr. Jackie Barker.
Yes,
shout out to moms, man. So how was your experience growing up COGIC? And this is probably what, early 70s, 80s, something like that. How was
1980. I was born. You put me in the 70s.
Well, 80s. Okay.
I was born in 1980.
Okay. So how was that experience, man, growing up COGIC, man? Especially in that era. It's probably a lot different than it is now, huh?
I don't have any, man, I didn't know anything else. And so I was born, I'll say pretty much on the front row of Vegas View Church of God in Christ, at COGIC Church. And so, and I was born into this, I don't know if I want to call it an ecosystem, but I was born into this situation where Tuesday night we were at church, Wednesday night we were at church, Thursday night we were at church, Friday night, and these were all different things. Friday night we were at church, and I'm the pastor's grandson. Saturday at times they would have activities depending on the holiday, and so we were probably there Saturday. And then Sunday we started church for 8 a.m. service, Sunday school, 11:30 service, and then we had a 6 p.m. service.
Deep, man.
So my life, I was born into a life that I knew nothing else.
Yeah, but you was really literally born into the game, man.
I was born into the game. And so it was a beautiful experience to me because it's all that I knew. Looking back at it, it is still a beautiful experience. The relationships that I have now, I see the relationships that my mom still has and Dr. Parson. It was really something
deep,
special.
man.
Yeah, it goes
deep.
real deep what my grandfather built at the time. However, now that I'm older, it's still an incredible experience that I wouldn't trade for the world. However, it lacked a lot of balance.
It was almost imbalanced,
it was completely imbalanced.
And I used to think church was just on Sunday when I was growing up, but I didn't, like you say, all that going on.
Yeah.
And every day it was something, man.
Every single day.
Yeah.
And so I went to college and I lost my mind.
Really? Then when you went to college, did you go to study like anything like ministry wise, or was that just something?
No.
Because by profession you were what are you by profession?
Social worker now.
Social worker. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that had nothing to do with your ministry. You were still gonna do it. Okay.
I went to college to be an English major. I don't know what I was gonna do with it. I moved to Atlanta and I thought that I would get caught up in the music scene and all that stuff, which I did. But Atlanta took over me, man.
Did it? What era was you down there in Atlanta? Would you say?
I got there 2001.
Okay,
maybe.
You was in there in probably a real weird time for Atlanta. It was like it was bulging, not weird, but it was really prospering around that time in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and going through a transition. They were trying to change the culture of the city. I got there after Freaknik, thank God.
I was about to say after that whole era. Yeah, that whole era.
I would have been out of Freaknik losing my mind.
Hey, and one of them old videos would have showed up. We're going to Antone right now.
Absolutely, 100%.
Man.
Would have been standing on top of somebody's car doing some everything.
Something wild, man. The internet is the only place where everything lives forever. So somebody would have held that against you, man. Wow. So how long was you down there in college? How long was it? Over like 4 years? Or?
I was in Atlanta for 4 years.
Oh, really?
I dropped out of school though because Atlanta took over. My parents didn't know. And I dropped out of school. I wanted to be this. I was going by a whole different name. Claude was my jazz name.
Really?
I was making
that sounds
a name
like a
for
jazz name. Yeah,
I was making a name for myself, man. I was trying to be famous.
Man, dude, that is wild, man. And so the music came early too. So the music aspect of it, because I know you were a singer too. I mean, did that come first? That really came first more than anything?
That came first. I think I was 6, and they noticed I had a gift. And Dr. Parson put me in the microphone one day. I was 6 years old, and the choir was. I was 6.
Wow!
And I believe I was 6. And she put me in the microphone to lead this song, and from then on, I just was.
Pastor Parson always has a way of recognizing what talent you have, spotting it, and she's phenomenal with that, putting it out there. 6 years old.
6 years old.
Wow. So was you in the choir from then on? Did you stay just being in the choir and stuff?
Well, I wasn't in the choir. I was the choir.
Oh, you was the
No, I'm not gonna say I was the choir, but
let's get that straight.
Yeah, let's tighten up here. No, I was always one of the lead singers. You know what I mean?
Okay,
And so, but yeah, I was a part of the choir from that point on, and I would float between the gospel choir and the young choir because I was. They deemed me as a gifted individual, and so. Yeah, we can say I was in the choir.
And this was in Vegas View.
Yeah.
Vegasville, right there.
Vegas
right
View
there by
Church
Jerry's Nugget, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah. It's been there for a minute, man, huh?
It's been there a long time. I'm 43, so it's been there over 43 years.
Golly.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. Speak about like the legacy. I know you mentioned your grandfather, your grandparents, and like your mom and Pastor Parson, of course. What influence did they have on to where you are now? I know everybody played their part and played a role, but how big, especially with the grandparents, they probably was the foundation of it, like, wasn't it?
They were.
How do you feel about the legacy of that?
The legacy is beautiful, man. There's nothing like it. I was actually talking to my mom this morning, and I think my life is quite charmed in the way that these people have gone before me and done so much. I'm going to be really candid and honest with you here. That legacy it's bigger than life.
Yeah, it seems like it.
You see Dr. Parson and what she's become. My grandfather and my grandmother were just, and then my mom is just a celebrity.
Yeah,
and
she is, man. She sure is. She do her thing too. Yeah. She really is, man. Yeah.
I don't feel, and I know some people are going to have an issue with this. The legacy is beautiful. But normally when you think about legacy, you think about inheritance.
Yes.
And there are some spiritual things that I've been able to inherit, but I really have struggled with the legacy because naturally I haven't been able to inherit anything.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and so when you talk to me about legacy, it gets really rough because it's all of these years of building and building. And then you have me as a pastor having to start completely from the ground.
From the ground, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
and so that's when you talk about legacy with me, the legacy was beautiful, but I don't, outside of the name and the spiritual gifting of it, I don't feel like a recipient of everything that was built.
When like the church was passed off to you and all that, you had to start from scratch.
I had to start from scratch. Well, my aunt had to start from scratch. They wouldn't give her the church because she was a woman.
Right. Now, that was the whole thing with the whole COGIC, the laws and all that.
They didn't believe, and they still don't really believe in female pastors. They'll do like overseers, or I hear there are some pastors across the nation. I don't know, but
it's a hard stance on that as far as the woman.
Hard stance. And so she had to go build her own.
Yes.
And so in many ways she wasn't a recipient of anything that her parents built. Not even the money, brother. They just sold that property, I think, for this property my grandfather bought. They sold it for like $2.3 million.
Godly.
And none of it, not a dime, came to the family.
You would think after all those years, though, it should naturally come down to, that's the business side of it, though, ain't it? Yeah.
I think even business people have a little more integrity than the way that happened. That's I wouldn't call that business. I think that's church. That is
the politics of it, maybe
politics and misappropriation in the church. It's the way shady people do business in church. That a person or a group of people would believe that the first family of this ministry that was built doesn't deserve any of that inheritance. It's ridiculous.
That is insane. Like you say, the first family, where it started at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it's hard to talk legacy and not include how painful
that. I never thought about that aspect. You got the name, but you haven't got nothing else to associate it with it. Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. And you said starting your stuff from scratch. Shout out to Society Church too.
Thank
man.
you, brother.
I always like your gear. It's always dope, man.
Thank you.
How long have y'all been up and running now? How long have y'all been official? I know it's always been a concept, but would you say that you officially EST established it?
Brick and mortar, maybe a year and 5 months at this point. You know, we were working back in 2018, I think, is when we started the Young Pastors Conference, and that was beautiful.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
But brick and mortar has been a year and some months. It feels longer because God was really good to the ministry, and we've been able to do a lot. And even with the growth, I'm startled at what God is doing. But it's a beast.
Yeah, I remember y'all initially had one space and y'all had to move early.
We had to move. Yeah.
That's a good problem, though, ain't it?
It is a good problem, especially because we did it as the pandemic was coming to a close. And we started on a Tuesday night.
Okay.
And so with what God did is unheard of.
Y'all Tuesdays was lit, man. I mean, I could never make it to one because I was always getting off work late, but I would always see your recaps, and I'm like, man, that's just the place to be. You know what I mean? Like,
it's serious over there. And it's not because it's me. It's just something that God has decided to do with that ministry. It really is it is a cloud that came day one and just never left.
And I always know too that you had a expectation of what would happen, and so you just didn't go in there with no kind of. You set an expectation of what you wanted to happen during the service, and it seemed like it was always like that, man. So shout out to Society Church, man. Keep doing that
Church,
thing.
Las Vegas.
And what was the inspiration behind the name and everything? Like, I like y'all branding, y'all graphics, and all. What was the inspiration behind that?
Well, you know, I've always felt, and I don't know why, it's the craziest thing to me, but I've always felt like a misfit, or that I just kind of always thought differently and was just different. And I didn't choose that, but for some reason. But I think about even growing up in the church, I used to look at some of the things that were happening in the church, and I just disagreed so heavily with so much. And I think if I would have spoke up about it, they would have. I hate to say this, man, but I've been done shady in this city. I've been done dirty, man. But had I said some of the things I really wanted to say, they probably would have hung me on top of 7 seas. But
you had to just kind of keep that one to yourself, man.
Right? But Jesus, you know, in the same way, and I'm not comparing myself to Jesus, God knows. However, Jesus goes into this synagogue. And he begins to listen to them talk about this prophecy that's to come, as Isaiah has prophesied. And he stands up and he tells them, I am the prophecy. I'm the word that you speak of. And it's the church people who don't have enough discernment to see that this is really Jesus Christ. And they get angry with him and they absolutely kick him out of the church and escort him out of the city, is what the scripture says.
Yeah.
And so from this point on, this is when you see Jesus really become Jesus, and he starts doing this magnificent, miraculous work. He becomes Jesus once he's kicked out of the church.
After this point.
Every single thing that he did that we reverence him for, we honor him for, that he's our God for, he did in society. His best works he did in society. He didn't do it in the church.
It wasn't in the church,
He wasn't allowed to do it in the church.
That's interesting.
So that's why we are called Society Church Las Vegas, because we want that kind of power. I want the power, and I won't take you on this long, but you know, one of the most beautiful stories in scripture is when Jesus is headed to Jairus' daughter, who's a magistrate, to heal her. And he's standing in the middle of society. Everything is going on as he's being in society. And so there's commerce going on. The magistrates are just society is happening all around him as he's being Jesus. And he makes this point to head to Jairus' daughter, whose dad has influence. And so, of course, if there's miracles in the land, the person who is elite would get that. But he makes this point when the woman with the issue of blood in the same society touches his hem. You know, she's hungry for him.
Touches the garment.
The garment, and he stops what he's doing. He's headed to do the elite of society. And he stops what he's doing to deal with the lowest of society. And so when you look at him, the healing of the paralyzed man and the lepers and every single thing Jesus did was outside of the church.
I never thought about it like that. That's big. That's huge, man.
So that's why we're called Society Church.
I know
Las
you're real
Vegas.
big on community. And,
Huge. Yeah.
It's almost like you would welcome the misfits.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, and they come to me.
Yeah. Okay.
And they come to me, and they've come to me, and I tell you, it's been one of the most brilliant seasons of my life, watching these people who feel like outcasts come and find a place to belong, and a place that'll make room for their gifts and for their anointing without judging them based off of their past. Now, you can't stay in your past. We believe in transformation.
That's true, yeah.
And but let me say this, because I've heard some things about society that aren't church, that aren't true. We're not an inclusive church. We're not, or let me change that. We are inclusive. I won't say we affirm everything. That's not who we are.
Okay, I got you.
If you come over here, you've got to change your life.
You got to change. You can start like this, but you can't stay.
You can't stay like this.
Yeah. I agree. That's phenomenal, man. I remember it was a post you made about 40 things you learned in your first year in the pastoring. And one of those was God will send people you never expected.
Yeah.
So that's kind of along those lines.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He'll send the right people at the right time.
Right people at the right time for the right reasons.
Yes. For the right reason or the right season.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest misconception of pastoring / ministry?
Well, one is obvious, that we make money off of it.
Yeah, some people think it's a money grab for some reason, huh?
I thought we had dealt with that, and and some pastors do, but God has to really release you into that level of ministry, and if He does it, it's for a reason, for you to help the masses.
Yes.
But most of us are using. This is the truth about my church. I'm still covering. 58% of the ministry is coming directly out of my personal pocket.
Wow.
And so there's not what money.
Yeah.
I saw somebody say this last week, and I'm like, are they serious?
I don't know where they get that. Ain't like nobody's pulling up in Benzes.
Right.
Like I never knew where they got that at, man. I never understood that.
Well, I almost did pull up in a Tesla, but I said, let me hold back. Let me be responsible. Because the truth is the person in your church who is lacking and really, really struggling. They don't need to see their pastor pull up in a Tesla or a Benz.
Yeah, that's true. But another thing I had about that too, and I'm like, okay, if a man or a woman is doing God's work, why do they have to struggle? Like, I'm doing one of the highest societal callings. Why do I have to come in here like a miser or be driving a bucket? I never understood that part. I'm doing God's work.
Yeah.
I don't deserve to pull up in style.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, man.
I just think you have to be careful how you do it.
How it's presented and how it's laid out,
If the church is paying a pastor a salary, then your life needs to reflect that salary.
Yes. Okay,
if you're a pastor that writes books, like Joel Osteen says, I don't take any salary from his church, but he writes books, and however, he's a public speaker. He makes money off of that.
You have different streams of income outside. You're not solely dependent on the church.
But if you're buying a Benz and a plane off of the tithing of the people, you are.
Yes. Okay. Now that's too. Yeah. If you're doing that's too much. Yeah. I always just wondered about. It's so many misconceptions out there. But that's probably one of the biggest. Yeah. And still doing your 9 to 5 thing, still trying to balance that, and still doing that. Yeah.
That is the heart. Let me before I address that, let me say another misconception about pastors that people need to really they really need to know this, because if we're not careful, especially for pastors, it's so easy to live a double life.
Yeah. No, I didn't see that coming out a lot.
It's so easy to do because we get it that we have this massive opportunity to hide behind what looks like righteousness.
Yes.
So you come see me on Tuesday, and I'm speaking in tongues, and I'm laying hands, and I'm prophesying. I have an opportunity to hide behind all of that.
Yes.
And go do everything that my flesh wants to do. And so pastors have to be really responsible with that.
That's huge.
But the misconception that we make is that pastors are perfect, and that pastors don't fall, and that they don't make mistakes.
They take the human component out of it.
They take the human component that without Christ and without the Holy Ghost, I am just as susceptible to sin as you are. I can be, if the devil thinks he's dope enough to go into the wilderness and tempt Jesus, then who do we as pastors think we are?
Yeah.
You know, we're humans and we struggle. And people need to be okay. There needs to be definitely real process. Scripture saying, restore the brothers back to the faith, all of that stuff. But when pastors fall, we deem it the worst thing in the world.
It is. It's such a fall. Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way.
And it's no grace.
There's
really
no grace.
Yeah,
There's no
like,
grace for pastors.
Yeah.
There's
that's
no grace
cool.
for
That's
spiritual
cool. Out of all the
leaders.
stuff you might do, the one slip up and then now you crucified.
Yeah, you're
literally,
done.
man. Yeah.
You can't pastor no more in this city. We gonna dog you. Although some of the foolishness they've been doing, we was doing with the people in the church.
Right, that's true. You used to run right with them, shoulder to shoulder with them.
You was with me. I did it with you.
With you, yeah.
You know, and here you get a chance to repent, come back, and then go start your own church, and then I can't. And then I'm ousted. You know, we do pastors wrong. Man.
Yeah, I would agree.
We do. We but onto the bivocational thing, pastoring and working a 9 to 5. Just pray for me, man.
Yes, I know. And that's just for right now. That you know what I mean? That's just for right now. But I know it's a tough act to balance. You know what I mean? But
it is.
Just trying to keep it going, man. I definitely understand that. What was your inspiration behind starting the young pastors and leaders, man? And I think I told you this before. I always felt you was on the cutting edge of the youth and what was next and the young movement in ministry. What was your inspiration behind that?
There's a guy named Mark Moore. Shout out to Mark Moore, who really is still taking over the nation. He's doing some incredible things in Atlanta, and he's huge. But he had the Young Leaders Conference.
Okay.
And in my mind at the time, I thought, you know, there's so many young pastors. There at the time, there was Amy Rucker. There was Mel Moore.
Okay. Society. I think Society Child Freedom.
He's Freedom.
Not Society. I mean Freedom. Yeah.
Freedom.
Church LV or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, Freedom. Yeah. But there was so many people young coming up.
Young pastors at the time. Joe Manaway was here, and I said, you know what? We need a Young Pastors Alliance to be able to come together and just meet. And I loved what Mark was doing with young leaders, and so I thought in the city of Las Vegas we needed an alliance between young pastors.
That was big to do that too. That was huge, man.
Man, I missed that so much.
How many did you do? Did you do 2?
We only did 2.
2. Okay.
We only did 2, and now we've changed it into the Builders Conference, which we did this year.
Yeah, I did this year. Yeah,
that was an incredible experience.
Hats off for that too, man. You keep it moving, and then you have such a network. You tied into so many people, man, that you can draw people from different churches and different, and so I think that's big, man, and it is needed. You know what I mean? It is needed. I think it is needed.
Which was strategic. I hate division in the church. And there's a fine line, of course, between unity and what can get dirty really, really quick. But if we can come together in unity in a really good way, I hate that denominations and people are divided.
Yeah,
and so
it doesn't need to be like that.
It shouldn't be like that. With intent, I sought to use all of these relationships from different denominations and cultures and bring them together.
Yeah, kind of close that gap.
Yeah, Church of Ephesus. I thought we needed to be diverse.
I agree. We mentioned earlier. What is your take on the state of the church now? If it could be a state of the church, a State of the Union 2023, what would be your state of the church take right in 2023, man?
I think we need to call it a state of emergency.
Yeah.
I put a post up this morning. I woke up and in prayer, the Lord just began to speak to me about a few things, and we're in trouble. We are. The church is in trouble, man.
You think so, man?
I know so, because we man, I'm just trying to be careful. We got it wrong. And the Lord has convicted me in many areas as well. At one point I was so focused on trying to build society, and you want to make sure that my promos and my flyers look as good as everybody else's, that my program looks great, that the people I invite to the ministry have a name so that I can promote the name of my church. That's not what Jesus Christ came for. And that's not what he was talking about when he said, I'm going to build my church. When he's talking to Peter, We are not that church, you know. The church where he says they were saying 3,000 people were joining daily, as such should be saved.
Okay.
Salvation is not our focus.
Okay.
And
which it should be.
Which it should be.
Okay.
And I hate to say this, but I blame Christian leaders, but I also blame the people, and together we've created a very personality-driven, ambitious, business model.
Yes, and it's got away celebratorial. You know, it's gotten away from the true intention.
Yes.
Yeah. We've kind of drifted off the road, right? It kind of drifted out of the I feel you.
We've driven off the cliff.
Not the bumps. You know, you hear. We done went over that. Huh?
That happened 6 years. At this point, we've driven off of the cliff, and if not careful, because we're in such a prophetic season where a lot of people are prophesying that the Lord is about to come back. I don't know, and I don't get into all that, but I do get into that. But people are saying He's coming back September 23rd. So I don't get into all that. I just
they got the date and everything.
They got the date, and just in case, I'll be prayed up, just in case He comes that day. But we have just lost focus. God convicted me last week, man, and I'm always honest when God convicts me. I wanted a specific podium for my church, because I'm like, you know what, I want my church to look like the white churches.
Look like
that's what I said, right? And so I had one of my friends who's a white pastor. He bought me a little podium, and I was so proud of it, and I put it up, and I'm like, we on our way. We really doing it. And then the Lord said, for what?
Take the air right out of that balloon.
For what? What's the point? They come in, they see a beautiful aesthetic, and then what?
And then what?
After the lights and the action and the LED screens, and after our praise and worship leaders that we make famous, and that's fine. But after all of that, after we go viral, after we write the book, after we become these gospel superstars, then what?
Yes. Are we still doing the intended mission?
Are we still doing the intended mission?
Yeah.
We have strayed away from the vision. We have, and I'm not saying everybody, but just church culture,
majority
as a whole.
Of the culture.
We're doing this, and it hits the messenger first. We're doing. The Lord told me, I was preaching a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to give the people all of my studies. All of the Hebrew, and I wanted to give them some historical content and context, and we're going to do some hermeneutics today. And I got up to preach, and I'm trying to preach so hard, and the Lord kept checking me every step of the way, and He said, stop. Strip this and make this simple.
Strip it all down.
Strip it down. You got people in this church that are struggling, and they just need to know that in my darkest hour, there's a God that loves them. They don't need to know what love means in Greek and in Hebrew.
Just
they
simplify it. Just break it.
What are you trying to prove, and who are you proving this to?
That's a good point. Stopped you right there, huh?
In the middle of the mess, I had to tell the people, I was like, y'all, I'm sorry, listen. The Lord just told me to strip this, and then I'm up here fronting, really. Because the truth is that we produce eloquent preaching for other preachers.
Yes.
So that they know that we've been
studying.
That's
good, man.
That's good, man. We want to be celebrated as good preachers that study. And we show up and we want to give you all of this stuff. And I heard somebody say some time ago, it ain't no point in me giving you all this Hebrew and Greek, and you can't follow instructions in English.
Yeah. What is that?
You know what I'm saying? Like, what am I getting up here? And it's
100%.
true. It's my responsibility to study the word, and I do, but there's somebody in that church who just lost everything.
And they don't care about the Hebrew or the Greek.
Yeah.
They
I'm getting up talking about the depths of the Greek of the I can't think of the C right now, but
and it sounds good. It looks good,
great.
but what? Yeah. Quan, if you could, we got a clip here. Can you cut to this clip right quick? I want to show about this clip.
The Lord tells Gideon, I need you to tear down the altar that your ancestors built. There's some stuff in your bloodline you're going to have to tear down.
Jesus.
But I'm going to say this. If you saw it happen with your grandma, if you saw it happen with your grandpa, when you see it happening in your house, How dare you sit and not do nothing?
All right.
Let me say it another way. If you see it happening in your church, and it's been happening for 20 years,
All right, Lord.
why would you, the called, the anointed, the purposed, the redeemed, the justified, sit there and let it happen when you have an altar that you can go to and make changes? There's some stuff in your heritage you're going to have to shut off. Just because they practiced it don't mean it's right.
Was that from your series Altars?
Sheesh, man, you about to walk heavy. Yeah, that was from the series Altars.
Yeah. And what was that series? That was series speaking about turn down all that stuff, man. Whatever your altar is, huh?
All of it. We wanted to. I was really preaching about the character of God, and in Scripture, if you really, really want to see who God is, you can see what happens around altars with Moses, with Abraham dealing with Isaac. When you look at sacrificial altars or altars of victory, Joshua builds an altar after he's won the war. So when you look at these altars, which a lot of times have names, Jehovah Nissi, the environment was called Jehovah Jireh when Isaac was supposed to be sacrificed, and there was Jesus made a way. So that environment and altar is now called Jehovah Jireh. So when you want to look at the characteristic of God, when you really want to know who God is, you can look at his altars and understand the essence of his presence.
See it from that. Yeah. And it looked like it was a great series, man.
It was incredible, but yeah,
that's serious, man. A few more minutes before we wrap up and get out of here. But speak about, I know you got a Worshipful Christmas coming up.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, man. When is that happening?
That is December 15th. So, we used to do the space, and we would sell out every year. And that was, I think, 378 people.
God,
This year we're scaling it all the way back, and it's only 60 seats.
Real exclusive,
it's
intimate.
Real exclusive, intimate,
Yeah.
And it's a live recording. And so we got Ken Young, of course, coming. Terry Rimson, who I know Terry's doing her thing in jazz and R&B right now. But bro, if you put her in a mic, well, she's an ex-wife of a bishop.
So
you put her in the mic to minister, and it goes insane. And then we have Carrie Turner, who's
I see. She's known around the town.
She's the assistant pastor to Jamal Bryant in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. You got some big names, man.
Yeah, she's from Vegas though, and she can sing her tail off, and so we're going to come together, and really give Christ what he deserves, and that's the gift of worship. December 15th. So
and where can they get some more information about that, or find out about, get a ticket?
If they scroll down on my social media, there's a link in the comment sections where all of the promo has been posted. But I'll make sure, just stay in touch with me, and I'll make sure that link is available for you all to.
That'll be good. It sounds like it's really, really something. And I know you always put on something special, kind of still tie back to your musical roots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you sing at your church still? Do you still worship and stuff at your church? Do you lead, or do you let like whole nother separate entity do that because you're preaching and pastoring, or what?
I've had a few leaders come, and they've all been great. But ultimately, it's Joe Piggy right now. And shout out to him, who over the last few weeks, he's taken the ministry to another level with his work. I mean, it has been, and we already, when I say it's been insane, we not jumping around and running around. That's cool for churches who do that. We don't do that. But really, when it comes to hosting the presence of God, it has been insane. So Joe Piggy, is so phenomenal at what he does, and he's so prophetic in his delivery, and just what he's done with praise and worship is amazing. When I get up, I do sing just a little bit to get myself, ready to preach or to minister. But for the most part, it's Joe Piggy right now handling business.
That's good, man. I came across a song of yours on iTunes, the Song of David.
The song
with Gifted.
With Ronnie.
Yeah, with
Thomas.
Ronnie. Yeah. How did that collaboration take place?
Ronnie is my guy. Ronnie is my guy. I look at him as a brother, little brother, really, and he asked me to be on his project.
Was that like a compilation or something?
Well, it was his Gifted. Well, whatever the name of the group is.
Gift the Youth with Purpose.
And so they called a few in the city to come and be a part of it, and that's
big.
how that happened.
I'm like, okay, I came across that. That's big, man. That's big, man. And so, Pastor Antone Dotson-Parson, Pastor ADP, tell them where they can find your service at, and anything else you want to leave the people of Vegas with, man.
We're at 5165 Camino Al Norte every Tuesday night at 6:30.
Okay.
It is untraditional. We are moving to Sundays soon once God gives us the green light. But right now, God has done some miraculous things. We call it Supernatural Tuesday.
Supernatural Tuesday, yeah.
So come see us. Come see us. Society Church Las Vegas, 5165 Camino Al Norte, North Las Vegas, 89031.
Okay, absolutely. And shout out to, like I said, the legacy, Dr. Jackie Barker, Mom's auntie, Pastor Parson, the whole Parson legacy, Claude,
Absolutely.
Stella, everything. Anything you want to leave the people with, man, before we wrap up?
You know, and I'll say this quickly. You know, I really want people to, especially in the church and out of the church, we're in such an interesting season where God really wants relationship with his people.
Yes, yeah.
And he's not asking us for, I'm going to shout out my barber. My barber told me, this week, you know, he said, you know, perfect doesn't exist, but consistency looks a whole lot like perfection.
Yes, that is true.
And so if people could really, really entreat God and get into a place of prayer, 5 minutes a day,
just
10
consistent
minutes, just
with
consistent,
yeah.
and let him do the rest. I just know God wants relationship. And sadly, I'm watching so many people, almost lose their destiny and purpose just because they don't have a prayer life.
Yeah.
Just pray. That's
just
all
pray.
I want, man. Just pray. Go spend some time with God.
I agree. And just like our natural relationships require maintenance, relationship with God requires maintenance too.
Absolutely.
You know, we take that out of the equation for some reason, man. Definitely, man. So, Pastor Antone, I appreciate your time. Shout out to Society Church.
Thank you.
Keep doing your thing. Keep growing. Keep being a blessing. Keep doing it your way.
Yeah.
The way God presented you to do it. So, keep doing it, man. I appreciate you stopping by the show, the D.Fos Podcast, Vegas Hype Media Network, and we signing off. Peace.
The D.Fos Podcast.